Hello and welcome to our 7-8 minutes of weekly Torah talk. Our guest today is Rabbi Peter Stein from Temple Brit Kodesh in Rochester, New York. And our Parsha is Tetzaveh. Hello, Rabbi. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much, Mel. It's wonderful to be together.
In Tetzaveh, God tells Moses to get pure olive oil from the people for the everlasting flame of the Menorah. The Kohen, the priest, kindles the Menorah each day. The priestly garments are described in this parsha. The Kohanim wear the ketonet, a full-length linen tunic, michnasayim, linen breeches, mitznefet, a turban, and avnet, a long sash. The high priest has additional garments, the ephod, an apron-like garment, choshen, a breastplate containing 12 precious stones, inscribed with the names of the 12 tribes of Israel, the me'il, the cloak or a coat of blue wool, the tzitz, a golden plate worn on the forehead with the words holy to God. The first pasuk of the parsha says, ואתה תצווה את בני ישראל ויקחו אליך שמן זית זך כתית למאור להעלות נר תמיד, and you shall command the children of Israel, and they shall take you to pure olive oil crushed for lighting, to kindle the lamps continually. So the menorah is a great symbol for the Jewish people, but why do we make such fuss over some lights?
I think it's a very good question, and certainly when we get into these later parshiot in Exodus, it's a little bit easy perhaps to focus on all the technical details. When I think about the menorah, I think of the image of the ner tamid, and what does it mean that it's a perpetual, or today we usually say eternal light. And I think about the idea that we have to light it over and over again. It's a symbol of our responsibility to keep discerning what it is that God wants from us each and every day, to wake up and meet our responsibilities each and every day. And I think that's not just in the description of this as a ner tamid, as an eternal or perpetual light, but even in the symbol of the oil itself. It says that it's meant to be pure beaten olive oil, and it's a way of saying that we have a partnership with God, that God, of course, produces the olives, God produces the oil that's inside the olives, but it's only through our human action, only through our abilities, things that we do ourselves, that we have the ability to crush it, to beat it, to make it into the oil that we can use in lighting the lamp. So in both of those pieces, I think there's a real reminder that we have not only a responsibility, but the ability to make the world stronger and better through the choices we make and the decisions we make.
When we think about light as a useful tool, we usually think about the night. We need this for lighting our darkness. But in the Mishkan, it is almost ironic that the menorah is lighted every morning, and you have to turn off the light when the evening comes, right?
Right. I think, oftentimes we think of light as a symbol of hope. As you say, in the nighttime, it gives us the ability to bring light into dark places. I think it's a little different with the ner tamid in the Mishkan. The nature of it is such that it's with us all day long, every day. And are we going to recognize it? Are we going to respond to it?
Right. And this is one of the things that separate the menorah in the Mishkan from what we light today in Hanukkah, and people tend to confuse these two features of Jewish life.
I think those two, and also the ner tamid that we see in the synagogues today, those lights are burning all the time, day and night, 24 hours a day. The hope is that it never ever goes out. The ner tamid that we read in the parsha, specifically, we know is kindled each day, is lit over and over again. It just burn endlessly, openly, without any care, any maintenance from the people.
Right, and both with the menorah and with the garments of the priests, we emphasize, the ritual side of Judaism. Things that only a meaning we ascribe to them make them significant in any way.
Yes, I think there's such a vivid description of these garments, all the details that are given, and we have to note the beginning part that says where did these garments come from? The garments come from the one who is blessed with the chokhmah, with the ability, the wisdom, the skill to construct them. So it's another reminder that God fills us with certain talents. God fills us with certain abilities. We have to pay attention to ourselves. We have to think about what are our God-given talents and how can we use them to strengthen the community around us.
Do you see any significance to the part that Judaism today does not include such garments? This is something that we lost when the temple was destroyed, and just today, including rabbis in synagogues or the cantors, and of course the people who come to pray in synagogues or to go through other Jewish ceremonies, they usually don't wear any special garments like they do in certain churches, for example. So is it something that we lost and need to try and resurrect?
Well, I think so. I think there's two parts to that. It's certainly something we lost, and there was a beautiful sacred intimacy to the time of the temple, the time of the Mishkan. But I don't think it's something that we lost in the sense that we're all together. There's nothing that separates us, that makes any person not able to participate. Anybody can come forward and be part of the community, can lead the community. So that I personally like call it the democratization of Judaism after that era. Although we can recognize the beauty and the specialness of that time, it's not necessarily what I would want to return us to.
So you think that this evolution, while we read the Torah and sort of miss the times in which we had these special garments, the evolution of Judaism makes us not really want this to come back.
Right. I think the evolution, in a sense, is a maturing. It's bringing us to the beautiful full expression today, where any person in the synagogue, any member of the Jewish people, can learn and grow and become a leader of the people, and it's not limited to a hierarchy that you have to be born into.
I must ask you a question that every year when we go through these parshas, I ask one of the rabbis I speak to, do you find these parshas boring or tiring in some way because of the many details and because there is no story to be talked about, or do you find them interesting just in a different way?
I think there's something very powerful about these parshas that have so many details, because it forces us to pay attention to the details, to the small elements of life, not just a broad story where maybe there's a moral at the end, maybe there's a lesson we can learn. Here we're told that life is constructed one bit at a time. The life that we have is made up of all sorts of details, all sorts of fun points, and yes, there might be a little bit of a challenge sometimes to read the Parashot in this way, but for the most part, I think when we read these portions that have such detail, there's something very, very valuable about that. And for our life today, let's pay attention to the small details of life.
One last question, and it might be also a somewhat a dumb question. Do you imagine in your own mind how the priests looked as they were wearing the garments about which we read in the Torah? Can you bring them back to life in your imagination?
I imagine what it would be like to experience it in a real physical way. What does it look like? What does it smell like? What does it sound like? I think there would be a real power in the imaginary sense if we had a time machine and we could go back and see it for ourselves. But I think leaving it in our imagination allows us to focus on how do we build beautiful things in the Jewish life that we do have today.
Rabbi, thank you so much and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you so much.